Hello, my friends. We are not far from a final day of Euro 2024 in Germany. Behind me, you see the Brandenburg Gate, it's a light show which has been created by my very good friends in Ukraine. Of course, it's not today. It's been done before, but I think it's a very good occasion to show it. Usually there are a few sayings in football which many people repeat, and in fact it becomes sort of almost an axiom, but it's not necessarily does. But anyway, I'll tell you about them. Finals, you don't play, you win them. That's one. A player can win a game, he cannot win a trophy. A trophy is won by a team. And the third one, games and trophies are won by the midfield. So let's us start immediately with the midfield, because England and Spain are quite strong up front. I would not even say that one is stronger than the other. They're not as strong in defense, both of them. But there is a difference in midfield. And that will probably decide the game. So we have more or less the probable lineups of tonight. Well, I think that they're very close to reality. And both teams are going to be playing as they played the last games. Spain played that way all the time, except for the last game, the semi-final, where Carvajal and Lenormand were suspended, but now they're in the lineup, as well as Laporte and Kukurella. So this is the four in defense. They have two midfielders, Roderi, Fabian Rouis. They have one man playing between the lines, between the midfield and attack, that is Daniel Olmo, and Nico Williams and Yamal are playing on the wings, Morata in the center. As far as, by the way, I wish a happy birthday to Yamal. He became 17 yesterday, and well, it's quite an age to play a final. England is playing with Mark Gay, John Stones, and Kyle Walker in the defense. Shaw, Rice, Manu, and Saka in midfield. Now, I'm not that sure that Gareth Southgate is going to play Shaw, because he's very offensive, maybe too offensive for today's game. Maybe Trippier is a bit more reliable. I say maybe. Bellingham and Foden behind Gary Kane. Well, the usual team that played the last two games against in the semifinals, against quarterfinals and semifinal. So, what can we say about the midfield, where I am absolutely certain that the game is going to be decided? Now, I'll show you one data. This is the game which the semi-final game which Spain played against France. And now we'll see what territory Roderi, Fabian Rouis, and Dani Olmo are covering. You see, this is impressive. It's really impressive. And it's a midfield against which is very difficult to play. They are forming basically a triangle. You have Rodri, you have Fabian Ruiz, and then you know, on the top it's like an arrow, yeah, and you know, the end of the arrow is Dani Olmo. Now, if England is capable to cope with it, okay. If it's not, well, then England is going to be in trouble. The most difficult game Spain had, in my opinion, until now, was against Germany. And I am not sure that all of our viewers have seen this game. I'll just remind you that it finished on 119th minute. That is the last minute of added time. And basically it was not absolutely clear that Spain deserved that victory. In the first time, Julian Nagelsmann, the German manager, he decided to play Gündoğan, whom many know from Premier League, many know from Barcelona this year, who is a player in between the lines. He's an attacking player. He plays between midfield and attack. So he decided to place him 1-to-1 against Rodri once Spain had the ball. It's a very difficult task for a creative player, because once you attack, you have to look for a ball, you have to have the ball, you have to pass it, and the moment that the opponent takes over the ball, you immediately have to look for a man that you have to cover, and that's Rodri. It's a courageous decision, I must say. Also, Nagelsmann, he started in a starting lineup. We saw Emre Can, whom we haven't seen before in a starting lineup. He is a champion of Germany. He plays in Leverkusen. He plays a kind of a role, you know, a role of a sweeper in front of defense, in front. Not like, you know, whomever I can remember in the old times, the great Franz Beckenbauer, who played behind, and he had a phenomenal 70, 80 meter, 60 meter pass. Now, Nagelsmann chose Emre Can and Toni Kroos as two sweeping players in front of the defense, so that they could look after Dani Olmo and Fabian Ruiz. It so happened that Germany started very aggressively, two really strong tackles against Pedri by Toni Kroos. Pedri had to leave the field. Dani Olmo came in, and Spain did not start playing worse. But the teams are absolutely equal. It was a kind of personal marking of players, which we see rarely today. Well, there are some teams in Europe that do it, but usually, especially in midfield, you play in zone. But here, Spain's triangle is so deadly that Nagelsmann decided to try and stop it with personal marksmanship. Now, first time it was first period, as I say, but basically it's the first half. First half it worked very, very well. Then at the end of the first half, at the end, very, very end, many people did not even notice it. There was a tackle of Kukurella against Gündoğan. Gündoğan was touching his hamstring. He came out in the second half, but obviously he wasn't able to give 100%. The change of Emre Can after the first half did not convince me at all, because he was playing a good game. He was giving a lot of self-confidence to the team. And the change of Sané and the Wirtz came on. Well, that's a decision of a manager. He wants to attack a different way. Though Sané and Kimmich were really forming a good couple on the right flank. But anyway, second half started. Andrich from Borussia Dortmund substituted Emre Can. In a penalty box, he lost Dani Olmo, absolutely lost him, and Dani Olmo scored the goal. At this point, of course, all the tactics had to be changed. Gündoğan was replaced by a forward, and Germany obviously had to tie the game. That was absolutely clear. And it did so in the last minute of the 90 minutes. And then they went into overtime, and you remember probably the famous episode with Kukurella's hand play, which I think should have been a penalty, but Anthony Taylor decided that he is not even going to check video assistance images at all. He just ignored it, and that was really not the correct way to do. And if we say that Kukurella, he was trying to get his arm away from a ball, but he didn't do it in time, and basically the ball struck his hand, but his movement was the hand towards the body. I mean, but you know, it's sort of it's funny, because most of the penalties are given because someone does not make in time something, because defender tackles and it's not timed well. The goalkeeper comes out and he doesn't time exactly when to take away his arm, you know, and he touches a forward, and penalties are given. So if that penalty, I say, if that penalty would have been given, probably Germany would have won. But no, you know, football destiny is a different one, and Dani Olmo had all the space in the world on the last minute of added time, 119th minute, to place a precise cross into a box, and Spain won. So why am I saying all that? I'm saying that Germany was quite successful in the first time, in the first half. The second half, well, it was a different game because Germany had to score, and it was pushing and pushing and pushing and achieved it. But you cannot leave without attention those three players: Roderi, Fabian Ruiz, and Dani Olmo. Now, let's compare the average positions that England and Spain have played in those 6 matches. Let's start probably with Spain, because we know it already so well that I think all the names you know by heart. So Spain is playing this way. You see, it's a very high defense, very high defense. Robin Norman and Aymeric Laporte are playing very, very high. It's left center back and right center back. Then you have the right back who is playing also very, very high. Left back is also playing high. Roderi, the defensive midfielder, is in the center. He is the regulator. He is a metronome. Left central midfielder is Fabian Rouis. And now we have the left center. And the right center midfielder is Dani Olmo, but was Pedri, now is Dani Olmo. And it's not that Alvaro Morata plays next to him all the time or next to them. He's very, very mobile. So he can move left, he can move right, he can move to a center, he creates spaces, and sometimes he finishes the attack. He didn't score in this championship, but he is that kind of a player. He makes space for others. And Nico Williams and Lamine Yamal are playing left and right wingers quite deep in opponent's territory. So that's how Spain plays. Why does it play that way? Because it's absolutely, I don't know even what a word to choose. It's obsessed with the pressing in the opponent's half. The moment they lose the ball, they attack you in mass just to get that ball back. And of course you risk. You risk with such a high defense because a long pass behind the lines with a very quick player, let's say Saka, yeah, and you can get a certain goal situation one-on-one. And not only Saka, it can be Bellingham, it can be anyone of the quick players of England. Now, England, on the contrary, plays with a defense much lower. Mike Gay and John Stones and Kyle Walker, as you see them, they play on their side of the field mainly, though Kyle Walker works a lot with with Saka. They work a lot in tandem. Then you have left and right midfielders. Left is Rice and Maino is right. Then you have Saka, who's on the right, quite far into the territory of opponent. You have the left wing back, who is Trippier. You see how high he is playing. And the forward is Gary Kane, and that circle behind him, it's not that he's lying on him, but sort of, we place it very close, is Foden. And you have left attacking midfield is Jude Bellingham. That is more or less how England plays. Now, let's say we want to have, we must find weak spots in Spain's defense. Now, Spain is quite vulnerable on the left side. It's vulnerable because Yamal, he stays quite deep inside the territory of opponent, and Carvajal plays with him also very close to the box of the opponent. That way, you get almost a corridor, and from that corridor, Spain faced most of the dangers. Most of the dangers. Now, England created dangerous situations for the opponent, usually from its right side, Walker and Saka. But there you have also Foden, who sees spaces, who feels spaces, who fills up spaces, who has a good shot. So that is not the strongest, but not the strongest part of Spain. Second, in my view, Spain's, I wouldn't say it's insufficiency, but it's just not, it's below the average in my opinion, defense. They don't know to defend themselves very well. That's why they try to be always in attack, because their attack is much stronger and their midfield is much stronger, and their midfield creates that filter to defend the defense. So England, well, in that sense, England is a similar team. England's forwards or attacking players are much stronger than defenders. So England is also obliged to attack. England, if it defends itself only, it's a lot of trouble, and we've seen it in previous matches. It's a lot of trouble, even with a team like Slovakia. A miracle by Bellingham. Yeah, but otherwise, I mean, even the weaker opponents, England has problems defending. With Netherlands, it had problems defending. So that's why England is also a team that tries to play attacking football. For these reasons, I do hope that we'll get as exciting a final as it was in Kuwait, in Doha, between Argentina and France. Because really, these two teams, we have to attack. Now, the strong point of two strong points of Spain, I would like to underline, and this is also, I think, quite well known to Gareth Southgate and his coach managers' headquarters. Now, high turnovers. Those are in dots, but anyway, I'll explain it to you and you'll understand. I think it's not that complicated. High turnovers. Spain, sorry, its very high defense allows an immediate attempt to take over the ball. In the half of the opponent, that means in the 40 meters, here you have 40 meters from the goal line towards the midfield. In these 40 meters, in those games that Spain played, sorry, it achieved 66 high turnovers. You see it. I mean, you see it. It's a lot. It's a lot. 13 of them ended up with shots and 2 with goals. Now, if we compare, England has to think about it, because Spain is going to press them in their half. And it will be very difficult, and England has to be very careful when it comes from defense to attack by passing low balls, not playing long balls in front, but coming out to attack through passing. Now, Spain, I said 66 turnovers. England, high turnovers, high. As close as possible to opponent's net. So, goal. So we have 66 Spain, 35 England. Well, it's quite a difference. It's quite a difference. Pressures applied, we have the average the average, not the average, it's the total, is more or less equal. But when we take passes per defense action, PDA, that means that the number of passes you need to go out from defense to offense. Spain needs 11 passes and England needs 16, almost 16 and a half passes. That means that England is slower going out from defense to offense. That's a strong point of Spain. That's a very strong point of Spain, because intensity, pressing, high pressing, what we showed, yeah, and very good technique. That makes Spain, obviously, Spain is favorite. Everybody considers it favorite. The big computer, the supercomputer, gave Spain 55%. The supercomputer of Opta, 55%, 45. But it also gave 31% to the possibility that the game is going to finish in penalty shots. Now, let's have a look at attacking thirds, which is, again, it's a strong side of Spain. And I think that England is ready for it, but I would be surprised if it's not. So Spain's attacking thirds, you see 46% on the left and only 31% on the right. And on the left, the intensity is high. On the right, it's sort of middle. In the center, not at all. We don't go through. But the trick here is that Nico Williams, who is on the left side, he's the third player in England's squad by the number of passes to Yamal. This winger-to-winger pattern is unique to France. To Spain. Nico Williams, either he goes, he's a fantastic dribbler. He can go and cross. He can give a ball to Yamal directly, long pass across the field. He can do it through Dani Olmo or same Roderi or Alvaro Morata, whoever is in the zone, and that ball goes against to Yamal. Yamal is, well, very good in dribbling, that we saw, and he has an absolutely fantastic shot, which we also saw. Uh, and that's a very strong point in Spain's attack. So basically, what we are talking about, okay, England is attacking in a little bit different pattern. The strongest attacks come from the right side, where Sakai is playing, obviously. On the left side, you had Trippier. I don't know if Shaw is going to play today, but anyway, Bellingham is playing quite often on the left, and then he moves to the center. Gary Kane creates a lot of spaces. He presses. He works a lot. He scores, but he does a lot of other stuff. A lot of other stuff. Sometimes we don't see it. Sometimes we say, "Oh God, I mean, where is the guy? We can't see the guy." The guy is covering somebody, or the guy is trying to foresee where the ball is going to go, and he tries to intercept it. I mean, he does a lot for the team. It's great teamwork. So, in conclusion, Spain obviously is stronger technically, I would say, but not much, really not much. They're quite equal in attack, quite. Though Yamal really is in great form, and self-confidence is enormous. And Nico Williams is also in great form, and his self-confidence is also enormous. So midfield. I don't know if Gareth Southgate will have the audacity, I would say, not the courage, but even more than courage, to give a possibility to Stones to play a little bit as he does in Manchester City with Guardiola. That is, when England, or Manchester City in this case, is attacking, he becomes an additional midfielder. That's very important. Yeah, I understand that my guy will have to sort of, he'll have a double role. On one hand, he'll have to help Shaw or Trippier with Yamal. On the other hand, if Rouis goes up front, he'll have to cover for him, or Walker will have to cover for him, or Rouis will have to cover for him. But the fact is that if Stones goes up during Spain's attack and say he looks after Dani Olmo, for instance, and Rouis and Mainu, they think about Roderi and Fabian Rouis, that may be a solution. Maybe that we'll see. As many, I'm very surprised by the maturity of Mainu, and he reads the game very well. He is much more mature than the 19 years he has. So basically, England can deal with that triangle, the deathly triangle of Spain: Rodri, Fabian Ruiz, and Dani Olmo. They can deal, but they'll need a lot of help. They'll need a lot of help from Foden. They'll also need a lot of help from Bellingham. And Kane, okay, as I said, he works as it is very much. So it's going to be it's a very difficult game to predict. I think that both teams will try to attack so that their defenses don't need to work too much. Well, and again, as usual in football, nothing changes. If you have an early goal, it's one game. If you don't have a goal until the middle of the second half, it's another game. If you have overtime, it's a third game. Well, and if you have penalties, it's a lottery. So, will football come back home, as the English say? Well, with a little bit of superiority, really. But anyway, will England be able, finally, to take a major trophy on a foreign soil? Because the only trophy that England has is the victory in the World Cup in '66. That would be the second major trophy, but one not on your own ground. Will it happen? It's possible. Really, it's possible. It all depends on the courage of Gareth Southgate, his tactical intelligence, and of course, the players. Their work, their confidence, and absolute lack of fear of your opponent. Even if all the world considers the opponent to be stronger, it doesn't matter at all. England is strong as it is, and it can do it. Well, tomorrow morning, we plan to do a review of the final match. What time exactly, I can't tell you, but just follow our channel. We'll certainly announce it. Well, thanks a lot, and let us have another game. If France, Argentina, we can still not forget. I mean, it's still in our eyes, in front of us. I wish that this game is going to remain in our memory as something very beautiful we have seen in football. Thank you, and see you tomorrow.